Boyfriend or not, I sat next to her in class every day, taking the same walk down the same hallway afterwards. We hung out after school and in the evenings too. I met other people. My roommate was a good guy named Sam Swaifer, a sort of pale kid, always in need of a shave, with a body that drooped towards the floor like the bazumbas of a big old lady. Sammy had been at Hamden Academy for a year before me, and he took a real pride in showing me around. He made it his job to point out everything and everyone he knew. It was kind of nice at first, but it got old fast, especially after some kid asked him, as we walked through the common area of the dorm, "Hey, Swaifer, when you crap, does he wipe?" That was a good one, I thought. But I also thought that I should find some other people to hang out with besides Sammy. The guys next door seemed kind of cool. They played music and talked all the time about Betties, which I figured out soon enough to mean girls. One was a loudmouth kid, skinny with freckles and red hair and a ton of confidence, like he didn't know he was a skinny, freckled kid with red hair. His roommate played the guitar and played the part of a musician with piled-up hairstyle, sandpaper stubble on his cheeks and chin, and the right clothes, faded and unbuttoned in all the right places. Those guys, Jeff Meeks and Johnny Grohl, started talking me up in the bathroom and in the halls. Then they would knock on our door sometimes and ask me to come over and hang. They knew Sammy, like a lot of people, but like a lot of people, they didn't seem all that crazy about him. And they never asked him to come over with me. One day, on my way next door, Sammy whispered, "Don't go." It nearly broke my heart, hearing him beg me like that. But I wasn't the same kid anymore, who brought everyone along and picked the worst guy first. A lot of good that had done me. It had cost me everything and got me nowhere. And I had some catching up to do with a lot of things. So when Sammy begged me to stay, my heart might have stopped, but I kept walking. Meeks and Grohl had another friend, a real cool guy named Todd Brooks. He was a prefect on the underclass floor of our dorm and always upstairs with Meeks and Grohl. Todd had some serious manners, wavy hair and broad shoulders too. If we had a football team, he'd have been the quarterback. Instead, he destroyed people in soccer and lacrosse. I'd learned soon enough that ours was a school of small circles with no real center. But I was pretty happy to be in with these guys. They were about as cool as it got at Hamden Academy. And Todd Brooks was the coolest of them all. He wasn't just any old student. He'd been there since freshman year, which was something on its own since kids came and went all the time. But he also served as the big man around campus, at least of the non-wrestlers, our only big sport, which made this guy Todd even more important because the wrestlers, they were about as charming as vomit. And with Todd Brooks in the lead, the four of us made our presence known around campus. "Here comes your girlfriend," Meeks would crack whenever Brenda Devine approached my new group of friends. I loved the way she would slide into our booth in the Can, which was the makeshift soda shop on campus. She'd help herself to a handful of French fries and join the conversation. She was smarter than all of us put together. Sometimes she'd challenge me to foosball in a little game area up the stairs, and we'd play for hours, spinning those little plastic men. "You score there yet, paisano?" Grohl would ask when I came down for more quarters. "Get bent, all of you," I'd say to them, but I wasn't talking to Todd. Todd knew my plans for Brenda. I waited for her and her boyfriend to break up. That's it. There were other girls around, but she was my Springsteen. I didn't like anybody else. We talked about it all the time, Todd and I. We talked about everything. I even told him about what happened to me back home. He was my guy, my buddy, my friend, my pal. We hung with Meeks and Grohl, but it was time to divide. They went their way, and we went ours. Until Todd went away with Brenda. And that hurt a hell of a lot more than getting run out of Queens by a tire iron to the head. It had to have been the Cross in the springtime. They both played, and the teams traveled together. So somewhere, I figured, on those bumpy bus rides through the Jersey countryside, with the windows open and the spring pouring in, they must have found each other and forgotten about me. I had no idea, not a clue about any of this, until an early evening in the end of spring. Crossing campus after a late baseball game, I saw my best friend and my best girl come giggling out of an empty building. The air got punched right out of me as I staggered behind a tree and watched them disappear into the twilight. Nearly as painful as that torturous moment was watching Todd and Brenda fall for each other. Over the last few weeks of school, they became the pets of campus. And if we had a prom, they'd have been the king and queen. As it was, everyone just fawned as they pawed each other in public. The thought of what they might be doing out of public was too much for me to even think about. Knuckling some salt into my gaping wound was the fact that neither of them said a word about this whole relationship. Not a word. Brenda and I were officially only friends, but great friends all year, and it was more than that too. We spent a ton of time together, and chemicals or something bounced back and forth when we were alone. I was funny with her like nobody else, and she had a special smile just for me. I'd never been in love before, but I knew when it was happening to me. And I knew when it wasn't happening anymore too. Brenda and I stopped hanging around alone together, and she stopped smiling at me like she had before. We had conversations, I guess, about things, but nothing important. Like normal friends, I guess. Todd, on the other hand, disappeared altogether. Spring was busy with sports and everything, and we only had a few weeks left before summer. But he never came to our floor in the dorm anymore, and when he saw me around campus, he'd just go the other way or walk right past. He'd walk right past with this smirk on his face, I swear. So another school year ended with me lonely and let down. And another summer was spent at home in Queens, mostly in my room, hoping for better days to come my way in the next year of high school. My last year. My last year, my last chance to make all those things I dreamed about real. They would come, and they would hurt, and it would all be worth it, I swear. And this is where the novel starts.